دكتور سمير إبراهيم غني عن التعريف، ولكن بنحب في كل مرة نقول له احنا ممنونين وبنشكرك انك باستمرار معانا، باستمرار بتعضدنا، باستمرار بتفكر في ولادنا وفي الأجيال وفي الكبار وفي الصغيرين. فربنا يبارك خدمتك ويديم خدمتك باستمرار يا دكتور سمير. الموضوع النهارده لما افكر فيه دكتور سمير هو يقول لكم حقيقه موضوع يلزم ان كل الاهالي اللي عندهم ولاد من اول بريب لغايه بدايه الهاي سكول انهم يكونوا معانا، وما كانش عندهم الاولاد دول لكن في خدام محتاجين يسمعوا وخادمات محتاجين يسمعوا التوبيك ده عشان نستفيد في موضوع التربية المسيحية. بسم الآب والابن والروح القدس إله واحد آمين.
أشكركم سكبونا، أشكركم الحقيقة ربنا بس ما لكمش إن أنا باجي أسرقكم وآخد البركة منكم، لكن ربنا بيحبنا قوي وبيدينا بركات ونعم وبيدينا إن إحنا نخدم بعض. وأنا متأكد إن في خدام ممتازين موجودين، وما بيتهيأليش إن أنا هضيف حاجة جديدة، لكن هي الموضوع كله إن إحنا ندردش ونراجع مع بعض. أنا أول ما جيت كان في 4 تنفار، دلوقتي يطلع في 400، فدي حاجة كويسة يعني. لكن تتعبوا لو كلنا جينا في حتة واحدة مع بعض، لأن الموضوع هيبقى مناقشات وعراك وحاجات كده، هنبقى كلنا في نفس بعض يعني.
تحبوا تطلعوا قدام ولا في كوفيد ولا حاجة؟
احنا خايفين من كده.
ما تخافوش، تعالوا اتفضلوا قدام لأن متوقعين إن الناس تانية هتيجي. اتفضل.
يسابونا اتفضل.
وانا بستأذن الدكتور سمير ان انا بين الحين والاخر اقوم اقف، معلش انا ملزم بالحكايه دي زمان.
لا طبعا، بدك تقف مع بعض. فكركم انا واقف ليه؟ لا عشان انا قصير. انا لو قعدت ما حدش هيشوفني. من المواضيع الممتعة إن إحنا نتكلم عن التربية بأساليب مختلفة. ليه المواضيع دي ممتعة؟ لأنها بتتطور باستمرار مع الأجيال والأجيال والأجيال. الكلام اللي بنقوله النهاردة مش هو اللي كان بيتقال من 30 سنة. الدنيا اتغيرت قوي وفي حاجات كتيرة اتغيرت قوي، وكل الحاجات دي لازم تبقى فاكتور. لكن اللي ما اتغيرش ومش هيتغير اهتمامنا بولادنا. ده لا اتغير ولا هيتغير، ده هيفضل دايما موجود، مهم قوي. وانا بيتهيألي انا بتكلم بالعربي.
Wait for legs landing on the floor. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. Who doesn't understand Arabic? One, two. Okay. And who doesn't understand English? Okay, can we switch to English?
Yes, please.
Okay. And my English is half Arabic, so it's not the perfect English as you may think, but I'm gonna be English society. Okay. Okay, so the English of our Egypt. Anyway, so we were just saying that talking about child upbringing and talking about parenting is a fascinating matter, and it's an ever changing and evolving matter. It's not the same. What we say today is not exactly what was said 30 years ago, because things are changing and changing very quickly. And I do believe that it's also if you wish, homegrown, because cultures impose themselves. So what we can say in Melbourne is not exactly what we can say in Garden City, or not what we can say in Aswan. Things are changing from culture to culture, and the relationship between children and parents are so much tailored by all the societal pressures. They are like vectors, and they are imposing themselves on what we can do, say, expect, and so on and so forth. Are you happy with that?
Yes.
This was introduction of the introduction. So let's start with the proper introduction. Why do you think God created Adam and Eve? Enjoy fellowship with Him? Well, Adam was so happy in paradise, and he was ecstatic by the sound of it. Was he? Not really. The Lord Himself said that Adam was not happy.
Sorry, Adam was I thought Adam and Eve.
No, Adam on his own. Adam on his own had... Okay. Adam on his own had everything around him. He had plants, and he had rivers, and he had birds, and he had dinosaurs to play with, and he had everything. He didn't have anything missing in his life. But the Lord looked at him and said, he doesn't look happy, so let's try to make him happy, and let's give him a companionship. So what did the Lord create? Created a human being or created a family? Okay, the family is formed of human beings. So yeah, you can argue this point. But when the Lord created this system that we call family, and when you look at science, they tell you that there is something called the family systems. There is a big science called the family systems. Because to understand the family is to understand the dynamics that are happening within the family, especially between mom, dad on one side, and parents, kids on the other side. So this is what we call, in the psychological language, the dynamics of the family. So there is an interaction between mom, dad, and then there is an interaction between parents, kids. So let's try to understand. So why did the Lord create the family system in such a way? Why did He create a man and a woman who are having many things in common, but a few things different? Why did the Lord do that? For the benefit of what? Other than arguing with each other. But for the benefit of what?
To complete each other.
Complete each other? Excellent. For the sake of? Excellent, the kids. So the Lord has created these two creatures, the man and the woman, who are similar in many, many things, but different in a few things, because as you correctly said, complement each other. So if you are playing soccer, you know that in every team you need to have a goalkeeper and a striker. You cannot have 11 goalkeepers, and you cannot have 11 strikers. You have to have this funny mix between people who are gifted and they have all what it takes to be a goalkeeper, or to be a striker, or to be a defender, and so on. And the amalgamation of all of them, the dynamics, all of the interaction between all of them, make it a team. And a team can then be successful and win and everything else. So if you want to borrow this idea, this is what we see in the family. So the family is not a one-man show. The family is a team. It's a team approach. So the family is not a one person. So someone might say, okay, are you then implying that each one of them has a different role? Of course. And that's why there is a very big lecture that we give at Theological College called Roles in a Family Life. What's the role of the man or the role of the woman? I'm not going into this. But before we start to talk about children upbringing, we need to understand that children are not brought up by, I don't know if you can see the board. Yes. Okay. Let's say that this is the man, and let's say this is the woman, and they are married, and then they have kids. Your kids look much better than this, but this is what I can do. So, and they have kids. Now, let me ask the question. Children upbringing depends on the relationship of mom with the kid, dad with the kid. Is that right? Who agrees with that? Not only that. Absolutely. This is not important and this is not important. What is important is this. And the child is so much attached to the relationship between mom and dad. So mom could be so loving and caring. Dad could be a wonderful father, as all of you are. But if the relationship mom and dad is so weak, is so broken, is not satisfactory, forget it. Children will suffer and will suffer to the bones. So it is so important and essential to know that anything we want to talk about related to children upbringing, related to parenting, it starts from what is the baseline is the relationship between mom and dad. And the best relationship between mom and dad is likely to bring up best kids and vice versa. Relationship between mom and dad, weak or disharmonious, they cannot talk to each other, they are always in fighting. There is something that you probably don't know, it's called stop talking to each other. You may maybe seen that only in movies, but it happens sometimes in some of the families where mom and dad are not talking to each other. I'll say it in Egyptian, the song. Have you heard about that? That's horrible. Once mom and dad stop talking to each other, what happens to the kids? Okay, once mom and dad start to yell at each other, which doesn't happen here, of course, that's people in Sydney, but not here. So what will happen? What will happen if the child sees mom and dad fighting with each other, regardless of the age? What will happen? Sorry? Uncertainty, lack of safety, security, and he's going to start to hate himself. Can he hate mom? No. That's mom. Can he hate dad? No. That's my father. So who am I going to hate? Me. And the child will be brought up in such an atmosphere to become my client one day. So mom and dad yelling at each other, and I've seen this numerous times, way in the past. When I was in Sydney, I was never in Sydney, but this is way in the past, and this brings up, unfortunately, very unstable, unbalanced, insecure, not safe children, and you can count the psychopathology, and you can go to the book of psychiatry from first to the last page, and in every disease described, they tell you disharmonious parents. So parents have to be in maximum harmony, otherwise you're going to have pathological kids. I'm saying this, and I know it doesn't apply to you, but I'm just saying this as an introduction. So this was the introduction. So we have the introduction of the introduction, and then we have the introduction. Let's start. ربنا معاكم مش هنخلص كده. Okay. Kids. And let me ask.
تمام؟ في أي حد متعثر في إنه يفهم الإنجليزي؟ في أي حد جديد؟ لأن أنا متوقع بعض العائلات هيجوا قريب وطالبين عربي خالص. لكن it's very good. Thank you.
If you don't understand my English, I can shift to Arabic. Arabic and English for me are more or less the same. You'll find that My Arabic is half English and my English is half Arabic. So it's my accent anyway. Talking about kids, let's try to read children upbringing, parenting from the kids' point of view, not from the parents' point of view. Can we do that? Let's start the journey. Let's try to imagine that each and every one of you now is a child. Can we do that? It's lovely, isn't it? Okay. So I am now a child with my parents. And let me ask, child is born, what does he know about life? Zilch. What does he know about personality? Zilch. What does he know about spirituality? Zilch. What does he know about ethics? Zilch. What does he know about characters in life? Nothing. So the child is born, you know, when you go and you buy a new computer, so the new computer doesn't have any software. Child is born as a computer without software. Has a motherboard though. And the motherboard are the little genes here and there. They may affect 10-20% of his character, but he does not know much about anything, about himself, about life, about anything. So what's going to happen to him? How is this child going to start to be shaped? Who is going to do that? Sorry? Parents, mom and dad. So mom and dad, the influence here is amazingly strong, because mom and dad are the make and break of what the child can see. But before we talk about that, we need to highlight something which was described by a theorist called Melanie Klein. And she highlighted an important factor that the child feels. Child is born, knows nothing about anything, and then after a little while, hours after being born, he has something called discomfort here, which is what? Hunger, pain. Child is born, and after a little while, wants to eat, isn't it? So a little bit of hunger, pain. The child does not know that this is called the stomach. And the child does not know how to say, Mommy, Mommy, I have pain here. He doesn't know that. And he doesn't know how to say, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. He doesn't know any of that. But the child has discomfort. And this discomfort, he or she cannot explain. His only way of expression is to cry. So the child will cry. Amazingly, the instinct of the mother. She looks at him and says, oh, you're hungry. The bottle, blue, 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 blue. The hunger pain goes away. The child, remember, we're talking from the child perspective. So the child thinks that what? Mom is what? Sorry? The best. Mom is my savior, my solution. I had something strange, didn't know what it is. I didn't know what about. And then mom is my savior. She is half God. Look at her. And then, after an hour, he has gases. And he starts to, he doesn't know anything else. And when you look at the mother and the gift that the mother has, it's the same crying. But the mother comes to him and says, oh, this is gases. So what's the difference between this crying and half an hour before? It's the same crying. But she has this gift. And then after a little while, you need to change. After a little while, the socks are too tight on your foot. And then, you need to have a bath because you sweat a lot. And so on and so forth. So the mother is the one who reads the child inside out. So the child gains trust. And this word trust is very important. We're going to use it all the time. Gains trust, that Melanie Klein called the basic trust. And actually Melanie Klein spoke about this trust and how this trust translates into faith later on in the child's life. So when the child now is 10 and 12, because of the basic trust with the parents, the child can trust God. You got the point? So this basic trust is very important. And this basic trust, see, he can read my mind. Okay, so this basic trust is so important and essential, because this basic trust is now what gives the child the sense of safety and security, and this is very important. Not only that, the child, after a little while, he just, every time he has a demand, comes this important figure, look at him, you need this, you need that, you need that, and it's always successful. After a little while, the child starts to realize, roughly around 3 months of age, starts to realize that it's not only this figure, there is someone else, another creature, another human being, so beautiful, and he's doing everything behind the scenes, and this is Dad. So this beautiful creature is the one doing everything in the background. So his basic trust goes from mom to, it's called generalization. So the basic trust starts to be a little bit widespread now. And then after 6 months or so, you can see that there is a sister, or there is teta, or there is ghetto, or there is an auntie, or whatever. So he starts to have the trust with many people. This is not what I want to tell you. What I want to tell you, that the child, having no knowledge about anything at all, will start to trust these people and start to learn from these people. What does it mean, learn? They come to him and he's now starting to talk a little bit, so he can move his lips and his tongue and his lower jaw, and he vocalizes. You've seen a child around age 3 months or so, 4 months, say blah, 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 and parents are very happy with that. And then child around 6, 7 months, 8 months, starts to move his jaw to make a more accepted sound. So that. And this is when the father says, see, he says daddy. He said daddy before mommy. He loves daddy more. He doesn't love daddy, he doesn't love mommy. This is what he can pronounce. So, has nothing to do with mommy, has nothing to do with daddy. He's just saying, it's like, see, he's calling for me all day. It's not calling for you. He's just saying what he can say. So this is what he can vocalize. And then he says mommy, and then he says other things as well. But they sit down and they start to teach him. Now he's roughly a year and a few months, 15 months maybe beyond. They start to sit down with him and teach him. And they teach him, maybe he has a sister, Sarah, Sarah's like Sarah, yeah, Sarah, until he can imitate them and he knows that this is important figure. And then Teta, and then Ghetto, and then Ammo, and then blah, 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 the whole thing. And then they teach him what he does not know. So they tell him, this is red. But he doesn't know what this is red. But for him, it's just a wave that hits his brain through the eye. And then they teach him, when you see this wavelength of color, this is called red. So why am I telling you all of this? Because the child learns everything about life, including characters. From who? From parents. So the child is now having this extreme and very deep and so significant trust in mom and dad and significant others. So the child now will start to copy. You know, there is a saying in Australian language, they say, monkey see, monkey do. So the child is like a monkey. And he is doing exactly what the parents are doing. So he talks like the parents are talking. Loud, yes, like parents are doing. Using language that could be a little bit offensive, like parents are doing. Using a little bit of aggression, like parents are doing. Having a tantrum, like parents are doing. Using very soft voice, like parents are doing. And then he learns everything about life like parents are doing. And then at the later stage comes the role of the screen. And the screen, we didn't say anything about screen 30 years ago, but the screen plays an essential role nowadays, especially that mom is too busy. And it's like, yeah, watch this cartoon movie, maybe not too much, about 12 hours a day. So the child knows the life through these 12 hours. Actually, I was amazed. I've seen a child aged about 4, and you know, when you see a child, you try to tease him a little bit and joke with him a little bit, and he was using language and words, literature words that I didn't understand. And I was saying, "Ya Arabia, how did you know all of that?" And his parents said, "From the screen." So the child sees a screen for anything between 6 and 10 hours a day, and he is just increasing his vocabulary exponentially. So he has words that I learned in university, but he knew them at the age of 4. And this is the role of the screen. Now, the role of the screen doesn't stop about the linguistics, but the role of the screen goes way beyond that. Because what he can see, and I don't know if you are fascinated to look at children cartoon or not, but if you look at the children cartoon, they teach things. It's not only the words, but they teach things. They teach how to be angry. They teach that if someone does something, you have to kill him with a harp or with a knife, because this is what you can see in cartoon. Yes, the cartoon character will be resurrected after 2 seconds, but in real life, no one will be resurrected. And it's not only that, it teaches sometimes hatred, it teaches sometimes inequality of genders, it teaches sometimes loving certain gender over another, and so on and so forth. So what is taught through the screen is so deep, and it goes under their skin, as they say, and it becomes part of who they are. You're with me, guys? You're too quiet. No one has interrupted me so far, or...
Makes sense.
Sorry?
Makes sense what you're saying.
It makes sense? Okay.
It's reflecting back on you.
Okay.
You're right.
Right. So, in the past, we used to say, this is 30 years ago, we used to say, the child starts to get other sources of teaching when he goes to preschool, and then prep, and then school. But it's limited number of hours, because it's about 10 hours a week or something. Nowadays, child age 6 months have a screen next to him, because mommy is busy, so has a screen next to him, and everything is done through the screen. I'm not against the internet, by the way, and I'm not against the screen. There are lots of good things about that, but I'm against the no control. I'm against the no control over the screen. I'm against having the screen taking over the parenting of our kids. This is what I am against. Because the children have to have access to the screen, otherwise they're going to be looking like retarded. You cannot have a child who doesn't know all the screen characters. If this child goes to school, they will eat him alive. He will look like retarded. So it's good to have that, but it's good to have that within control. within limits. And if I say within limits, so what is the other time, the other number of hours per day? What's happening? The contact with the parents, which we call in our language not just a time, but quality time. Do you know what is the definition of quality time? Which is what, Mariam?
Focused interactions with the child, meaningful.
A meaningful interaction. تمام. أبونا بيقول لي change the software to Arabic.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay. زمان كان يهمنا جدا الوقت اللي بيمضيه الولد مع بابا وماما. من ساعة ما دخلت الايفون والايباد والحاجات دي كلها ابتدى الوقت ده يكسر، وابتدى الوقت مع الشاشة يطول. والشاشة بتطلع حاجات شكلها جميل تلهي العين، لكن بتعلم الولد مش بس كلمات طبعا، لكن بتعلم الولد أنماط الحياة، حركات، كلام، اتجاهات تفكيرية، اتجاهات في الميول. كل الكلام ده بيحصل من خلال الشاشة. فطبعا مهم جدا انه اي ولد لازم يعرف ايه الكاركترز، والا يروح المدرسة يبقى شكله متخلف مش عارف ايه اللي بيتقال. انما لازم يبقى within limits. طب وبقية الوقت؟ بقية الوقت هو بابا وماما. التفاعل مع بابا وماما مهم جدا، لأن هو ده اللي بياخد منه، تصدقوا، الإيمان، التصرفات المسيحية، الشخصية القوية المتزنة. هيفهم الكلام ده كله ازاي؟ لما يروح مدارس أحد؟ لا، هيفهم الكلام ده من بابا وماما أولا. مش كل حاجة مدارس الأحد تقدر تعملها دي ساعتين في الأسبوع. إنما مين اللي بيربي العيل؟ برافو عليكم، بابا وماما. لو بابا وماما مش موجودين، زمان كانوا يجيبوا خدامة فلبينية. دلوقتي لما بابا وماما مش قادرين، مش موجودين، بيجيبوا الشاشة دي بتديهم إيه؟ اللي هم عايزينه بقى. الصح على الغلط على الريمبو على كل حاجة أنتوا عايزينها. كل ده موجود، وماما مشغولة جدا، بابا مشغول جدا. بحترم كل ده، بحترم ان الناس عندها ارتباطات والتزامات وكل حاجة، احترامي الشديد. ولكن بتهيألي ان تربية الاولاد دايما بتيجي من واحد. مش كده؟ بنخلق لها وقت. يعني شفت ناس بيبطلوا شغل او ينزلوا من فول تايم هاف تايم، كل ده عشان يبقوا مع اولادهم متقاطعين. لانه التربية ما بتحصلش بالوعظ. التربية بتحصل بإيه؟ بالرؤية. I'm going to tell you a little medical secret. This is the brain. Brain, many areas, many functions. You can lecture someone. What I'm telling you now is a lecture. And you can listen, which goes here. And you can memorize, which goes here. Good. Part of the brain called the temporal lobe. But you have eyes, and you can see. And what you can see goes through certain pathways here, understood here, and stored here. Which one is bigger? What you can see. And that's why when the Lord Jesus Christ, during his life on earth, he has done many sermons, isn't it? Beautiful sermons. But he chose disciples, 12, and he had 70 on the side. But what did he do with his disciples? They went with him day and night for 3.5 years. They have not only heard the sermons. Remember, hearing is very short area in the brain. Hearing is a short area of the brain, but seeing is far more important. And it's these 12 disciples who have started to spread what does it mean to be Christian after his resurrection and ascension and after the Pentecost. So it wasn't people who just heard sermons. It's people who saw. And this has been the case if you read about the Christian history. You will find that the fathers of the church, especially the monks and even some of the popes and bishops, they will have disciples. And what's the disciple doing? He sits with the father, with the pope, with the bishop, with the monk, day and night, years, so they can see how Christianity can be lived, not only hear sermons. So children upbringing is through what they can see. So what do they see from a father who is always very Christian in his behavior? They will see how Christianity is lived. So every time the father has an issue at work, what does he do? He prays, he meditates, he goes to church, he asks for help from saints, he has a very good friend called Marinina, and so on and so forth. So this type of behavior is Christianity alive. Okay, send a child to Sunday school 2 hours a week, and they teach him, Baba Carlos was very good, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes home and he can see Baba never prays or reads the Bible. On the contrary, they can see, like people in Sydney, they can see that crying or screaming or yelling or fighting or drinking or I remember this story I've seen about 25 years ago. One of the servants rang me one day and said, there is something horrible I've seen today. I told him, yeah, what's wrong? And he goes, I went to visit one of my children at Sunday school, and he told me, I want to show something that is the icon of our house. And he said, yeah, and he thought he's going to take him to this beautiful prayer corner in the house. And he went and he saw Shisha corner. And he told him, this is a place where mom and dad adore it. And they are here most of the evenings. And many of their friends come and they spend time maybe till the very early hours of the morning. You got my point? No matter this child, how many times he goes to Sunday school and attend Mass, and you tell him to be a deacon and everything else, but what does he see at home? Is his mom and dad behaving in a different way? Still remember again, this is more than 30 years ago, this girl that I have seen, she was a young person, and this is far away, and she was telling me, Ammo, I need to tell you something. You're one of the serpents here, I want to tell you something. I actually had an abortion yesterday. But, huh? And she said, you have no idea what's happening at home. So she had issues and she had wrongdoings, but the first thing she was talking about is home. And then she told me about what's happening at home, and so on and so forth. So the behavior, not just the preaching, the behaviors of the parents are very important. One of those behaviors, when you think about it, is how mom and dad talk to each other. So, as far as I know, and Abuna is telling me, everybody in this church, mom and dad are like saints. They are like angels. They talk to each other always at a very, very low voice, always smiling to each other, always accepting each other. Communication is the best ever. صح يا أبونا؟ حاليا يا أبونا أنا بكذب معلش. كل يوم. So, I know nothing about this church, by the way, but I'm just saying, so when the child can see this, how do you think the child learns communication? Learns what to say, when, how, tone of voice, movements of the hands, and so on and so forth. From where do they got this from? Mom, dad, and the screen. But mom, dad have much stronger influence. Why? I'm going to ask why. and you should know the answer.
They have the trust.
Because
They have the trust.
excellent, because they build up the trust with mom and dad, as I explained to you. So the screen has an influence, but weaker than mom and dad. Why? Because the screen does not make him food, and the screen does not shower him.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, wait another 10 years. Yes, there will be no mom and dad influence at all. So for the time being, alhamdulillah, for the time being, mom and dad have the maximum influence on the children. Why? Because of the basic trust. This is if mom and dad have always been there for the child. ارجع اقعد فين؟ احنا بنتكلم على ان بابا وماما ليهم تاثير قوي جدا. ليه؟ لا، الولاد بيثقوا فيهم. انت بتلحقني دايما. بابا وماما دايما قدامهم معاهم حته بقى الوقت، عامل الوقت. في كلمه كده بالانجليزي مش عارف ترجمها بالعربي، يقولوا ايه؟ be there for your child. كن هناك. هي اقوى شويه بالانجليزي، مش مجرد موجود، لكن موجود بذاتك، بفكرك، بجوارحك، بكل ما تملك. هي دي الترجمه بتاعت be there. So be there مش مجرد انا
فعل كينونة being أو كينونة the same.
انا ممكن ابقى قاعد جنب ابني، لكن انا قاعد ابص على الموبايل، او انا بعمل حاجه، او بقرا في جورنال، او انا مشغول في الاخبار. ده مش ده اللي احنا بنتكلم عليه خالص. be there يعني الفكره ان انا موجود بكل مفهومي، كل ذره فيا، بمفهومي، بانتباهي، بوقتي، بعناية، بمشاعري، بكل كبيره وصغيره. كأن الولد ده هو ايه؟ محط اهتمامي. هو ده اللي بتاعي، ده اللي ليا، ده استثماري في الحياه. كل ده ما اعرفش اقوله بالانجليزي. But the word be there maybe summarize everything. So be there for the kids is how kids learn. So sometimes you look at the child and then you say, oh, the child is a little bit aggressive with everybody. You know why? And the child is actually, even with his parents, he is going a little bit aggressive with them and calling them something or using language that is not appropriate. Yes, it could be what he learned from the screen. But if there is enough time and be there of the parents of the child will listen to mom and dad. So there are many ways to understand parenting. في طرق كتير قوي ان احنا نفهم يعني ايه كلمة التربية. Some of the definitions that parenting is drawing the boundaries between what is accepted, what is not accepted, what is right and what is wrong. This is one of the definitions of parenting.
نرسم الحدود.
ترسيم الحدود بالظبط كده. فالولد يطلع يعرف ان هنا اخضر وهنا احمر، هنا ممكن وهنا مش ممكن. طب دي هيعرفها ازاي؟ هو مولود ما يعرفش حاجه. هيعرفها من مين؟ هيعرفها من بابا وماما. لما يقولوا له بس الاهم من يقولوا له ايه؟ يشوف بعينيه. اما يشوف بعينيه ان في كلمات معينه ما بتقالش في البيت مستحيل. مش هيقولها حتى لو جابها من المدرسه. مره اتنين يقولوا له لا احنا ما بنقولش الكلام ده. لا احنا ما بنتكلمش في المواضيع دي. لا احنا ما بنعملش الطريقه دي. لا لما بنتكلم مع بعض بنبقى هاديين. لا لما بنتكلم في تفاهم. شايفنا هو شايف الكلام ده. مش مجرد بيسمع من حد، ده شايف بعينه. نحاول لكم على حاجه تضحك. One day I was just reinforcing the idea that what we see is much more powerful. I remember when we were in medical school, we had a professor of chest medicine, and he was a very, very renowned professor. He was a very, very good professor in not only knowledge, but in research and in teaching and everything else. And he was a heavy smoker. At that time, you could smoke indoors. So he used to do like this. الهبابة دي يا أولاد محدش يلمسها. So this is something very bad, don't touch it. Who's going to listen to that? Remember, what we listen, very little influence. What we see, major influence. And many of my colleagues will go out after, after the lecture, and they will start smoking, and they say exactly the same thing as in joking. You got my point? So it is so essential that the child has to see, not just how to hear. And to see, you need the time factor. The time factor is very important. And I know we are in the West, and people work overtime and overtime, even in Egypt now. People work 2 or 3 jobs. It's not as it used to be 50 years ago. But at the same time, without seeing with our own eyes the good role model, the proper example, they will not learn. Yes?
We are lucky because we are in the church and everything. What about people who are in the society? It's a very messed up society, like homeless and people who have not had the chance to have this upbringing and this the building of trust and everything. How does God approach them? Or what's our role for us to draw them near to God?
Okay, you're talking here about how to serve them.
Yes, like this.
Are you serving the homeless?
People who haven't had a proper childhood and now they're in a very messed up society and they didn't have the chance to experience what you're talking about.
In the church. Even they are in the church.
And they didn't have
Yes,
this
they are in the
chance.
church.
Well, it's very hard to imagine what they have been exposed to. And I don't believe that there is one scenario for everybody. Some people have been themselves abused, physically, sexually, and so on. Some of those children, the homeless children, and I have seen this happen. You remind me now with, when I was back in Egypt, we've done a study with the WHO on street kids. And street kids, that's in Egypt, that's Mohammed Geber in Alexandria. Street kids at the age of maybe 7, 8, they were prostituting themselves, boys and girls. And this is 50 years ago, mind you, I'm too old. So I'm talking about 50 years ago. So if this has been the case 50 years ago, I cannot imagine what's happening now. And unfortunately, this is something we can hardly predict. We don't know, and I think it has to be taken case by case, because each child has an experience different from the other. But children, and this is from what I have seen with my limited exposure to those people, they become very much touched by genuine attention. So when they are given genuine attention, they respond very quickly and they are deeply, deeply touched in their heart. So I've always had such a fascination for those servants who serve the street kids. As you know, there are lots of churches in Egypt working with the street kids. I think you know that. And I have the utmost respect to these servants, because they are dealing with the worst faction of the society. It's very, very complicated. But what we can do is one of those problems in life. Some people sometimes ask me, so how God going to deal with them? How God going to judge them in the last day? It's not my job. It's his job. I wouldn't worry about this. It's something that he knows what to do. Yes?
From your profession, what age is, up to what age is salvageable that you can save, you know, if your child is going down that path? Because
Which path?
he or she is witnessing mum and dad acting in a certain way, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my child. What age from your profession is that you can bring back? That you can bring back?
You know when they say it's never too late?
Yeah.
So age 22 is okay. So it's never too late.
But it's
It's never too late. But you can imagine.
Yeah.
Sorry?
The earlier the better.
Of course,
Yeah, that's right.
of course. But if somebody had done some mistakes unknowingly, because, and this is what I hear on numerous occasions, people tell me, I was doing what I have seen mom and dad doing. So mom and dad were like this, and Kid Teta were like this, so why you blame me? I don't blame anyone, but I'm just saying that at the minute I know, things have to change. Yeah.
So sometimes we want our kids to be perfect, and every time we tell them, "Oh, don't do this," and we keep like ignoring their behavior. So would that affect their
What do you mean
self-esteem?
ignoring them?
Like sometimes we need them to be perfect. We take them, for example, for a class 2 hours, and they kids they want to play, they want to talk, and we keep telling them, "Don't talk, don't run. Abuna will not be happy. People around us will not be happy." Would that affect them? Is that the right way to bring them up? Like that we shout at them all the
Talking
time?
about bring them at church and tell them you have to be calm during the mass and stuff. This is what you mean?
Not only this, but like even at home, if he does something not right, should we keep correcting them all the time?
Okay. I think we need to have a whole session about what we call the science of punishment. Because the science of punishment is so important, and it has to follow clear guidelines, and we have 10 steps in punishment to become effective. Because just yelling, screaming, smacking him at the back of his head, it does not bring a good job. So, should we teach them? Definitely. How? This is the question. Should we always correct them? As much as we can. But as much as we can without making them feel bored. Okay, let's learn from the Bible. If you go to the book of Revelation, one of my favorite books, and if you look at chapter 2 and 3, this is when the Lord Jesus is asking بيبعت الولد عشان يدينا الميكروفون، الولد زي العسل. زي العسل. Okay, so the Lord Jesus is asking St. John to write to the bishops or the person responsible for the 7 churches. And if you read it carefully, it goes always like this. Praise, tell them what you want, and finish with a praise. And finish with a promise. So bright, a bit dark, bright again. They call it in psychology the sandwich. So you have bread, and you have something not nice, maybe mustard, and then you have bread again. دي بيسموها طريقة الساندويتش. تعلمناها من سفر الرؤيا، 7 كنايس في معادة الثانية، إنما ال6 كنايس التانيين بيبتدي يمدح ويقول أنا عارف أعمالك وإيمانك وأنت ساكن مش عارف إيه ده، ولكن عندي عليك قليل. إيه بقى القليل ده؟ تركت محبتك الأولى وأنت بتعمل إيه وبتاع حاجة يعني زلازل. وبعدين يقول له إيه؟ طمن ترى عملت كذا، هديك الحصى عليها اسمك واللي ويطمنه خالص. سموها طريقة الساندويتش. والحلو قول اللي انت عايزه، بعدين قول حلو تاني. This is the best way to treat kids. And to tell anyone, not only kids, even grown-up people, even between husband and wife, it's wonderful, sir. If you're a leader, yes, if you are a leader at your work, this is what they teach you. This is part of HR. So when HR approaches you, you know that they're gonna tell you how wonderful you are, and then you are fired, and then how good you are at the end. So this is what they do. So it's exactly what we learn from the Lord Jesus in the book of Revelation. Chapter 2 and chapter 3. If you want to do this exercise and read them tonight, you will be amazed. It's a wonderful way to teach people. And this is what we do with our kids, even with each other. So husband and wife. So when the wife comes to you and says, you're the best husband on earth, so what's next? Okay. So, but there are ways how to deal with the punishment, and we can talk about this some other time. I know I've taken so much of your time, and I'm sorry for that. This is taking so much. Abuna.
Thank you, Doctor. No, I have a question. And thank you. You've put the ball back in the parents' court. So, well, this is what the church has always been teaching. You know, in the baptism, of course, we give the instruction to the parents that they must do this, and teach them. So you put the ball back in there, which is very nice. But I have a question. We live in 2025. 24, sorry. Well, soon in 2025. And the family unit is not what it used to be. So we have now single parents. We have parents who, or families where, you know, maybe one of the parents is working far away, or many hours, so it's non-existent. So what advice do you have to those who find themselves in a circumstance where perhaps they are single parents? Because obviously you're saying the emphasis is really on what the child sees. So what advice do you have for that?
Thank you, Abuna. You always ask very difficult questions. مش في المنهج. طيب حاضر.
نسمع الإجابة دلوقتي يعني.
طب هقول رد سريع. وبعد كده نتكلم بقى على different types of families المرة اللي جاية. Punishment المهمة. In terms of single parent families, you will find that if it's the wife alone, the mother alone, most of the time there is a father figure created. Could be a brother, could be a buna, could be a servant, could be a cousin, could be a neighbor. I'm not talking about a boyfriend to the mother, because this is common in the Australian culture. But we also know from statistics that the boyfriend of the mother might not be always a saint. And sometimes he himself can be abusive to the children. So it's not really advisable to have a boyfriend, especially if the kids are too young. But I'm talking here about a father figure that will be created. Why is that? Because the philosophy and the wisdom of creating a man and a woman to live together in partnership will have a very important influence on the child. So the child, a boy or a girl, needs to take things from dad and from mom. There is a very strong process of identification that happens to become an identity at a later stage in life. And this identification, whether it's the man and a boy, or mom and a boy, they are gaining a few things. The woman, the same thing. The girl, the same thing. So it is so important to have the father figure from somebody, or the mother figure if it's the husband on his own, which is rare. But they always find the mother figure. And it could be an auntie, it could be grandmother, it could be whoever. But the mother figure is always there. Second point, we live in a wonderful country where there is a single parent family. There are lots of financial support by the state. And this in itself allows the mother, if she is a single parent, allows the mother to spend much more time with the children. Because if the mother is a single mother, like what happens in the Middle East, if the father is not there, died in the war, for example, and there is no social security, so what the mother is doing there, she has to work, otherwise kids would die. So she's not with them, there is no mom, there is no dad, so the children will become Hamas. So we really need to have this kept in mind, that they need lots and lots of time spent, quality time spent, even if they are single parents. So I don't know if I answered your query, Abuna, but the time is irreplaceable, and we cannot compromise because it's a single parent family. Yes?
Just about quality time. Just about quality time in particular. When I think about quality time, obviously, like I want to sit and have meaningful conversations with my kids and stuff like that. But like, for example, I struggle with playing with them. I find that I don't know how to relate in that sense. And I think it's because, you know, growing up, I wasn't as involved in playing and stuff. So does that, like, is that a bad thing, or what do I do in that situation? How do I then?
There is no catalog for the quality time. Oh, sorry. There is no catalog for the quality time. So the quality time is the sense of presence that the child feels. Whether they play dart, or they play soccer, or they just walk the garden, or they talk about the flowers, or they joke about a movie. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be through play. Of course, children prefer play, but, and it depends on the age, of course. But it's not the only thing that can be done. The presence of the mother, the presence of the father, this is essential and very, very important. And regardless of what you do, I'm pretty sure what you can do is not what she can do, not what she can do. We are all different human beings. Okay?
عندي سؤال يا دكتور، بنتعامل ازاي مع الطفل العنيد؟ عايز اقول له حاجه بس مش عايز يسمعني.
سنه كام؟
9 و7
3 و2 و12. طيب ممكن اقول لكم حاجه؟
هو بس especially I'm a single father. I'm a single father. برضه في اجابه.
لو في طفل مش عنيد هتقولي ده عيان. The normal child is a stubborn child. If the child says yes all the time, he needs help. So the minute the child says no, افرح. Congratulations. I think it's very, very normal. So we'll talk about that more with the punishment, because it's coming under the heading of punishment. So when we talk about that, I'm just aware of the time. We're going to start from 7, maximum 8. It's 20 past 8, and I have to apologize to all of you. I'm sorry I have kept you, but you're wonderful people, and it's so nice to chat to you.
When is the next time?
When is next time? لما أبونا يقول. أبونا ده أبونا كلنا.
أقول دلوقتي حالا، بس عايز أسأل سؤالين يعني.
أسأل أسئلة بس صريحة. مين عايز عربي كله يرفع ايده؟ مين عايز انجليزي كله؟ مين عايز يفهم العربي والإنجليزي عشان الكل يتبسط؟ Thank you very much.
Today was good, Ibuna.
Today was good. Yes, very good.
قعدت على الدكتور سمير وأقول له قول الحتة دي بالعربي، قول الحتة دي بالقبطي، يعني خلاص ميعادنا الجاي إن شاء الله، عشان أنا شايف إنه كل الحاجات الجميلة بتاعت النهارده إن شاء الله هنكمل السبت 30 مارس، السبت الأخير في مارس. لو لونج ويك اند مش عايزين تيجوا السبت 30. طب ايه رايكم نخليها سبت العدد بتاع الكاثوليك؟
الحقيقة 3 وكانت العيد إنما
6 أبريل السبت، وهنعملها اكسبشن المرة دي 6 أبريل اللي هو هيبقى أول سبت في شهر أبريل. موافقين؟ اتفقنا كده؟ إن شاء الله مع الدكتور سمير. بشكرك يا دكتور، ربنا يعوضك. العنوان هيكون إيه؟
Punishment of teaching.
Consequences. I don't like the word punishment. It's not good. Don't do punishment.
هي punishment as part of parenting. So it's parenting session.
Parenting session.
ما تمشيش يا شادي، البيتزا موجودة هنا والكل معزوم.
جاي بكره بدري عشان القهوه افتحها في
كلنا جايين بدري، كلنا جايين الساعة
3 ساعات بكره.
الله يعوضك يا دكتور سمير. ثانك يو فيري ماتش. ثانك يو. ربنا يبارك فيك. اتفضل يا ابونا صليب، اختمنا بالصلاة. ابونا صليب اختمنا بالصلاة يا أبي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ذلك وكان وقتكم بين يديكم كل بركة سمية. اللي بوسطهم وجد حياتهم بارك في الميت وبارك في كل ما دبت إليه. السلام تربع فرحنا كل حين وتبع كفيسة فأنتم كفيسة الذين أنفسنا رجعنا واستحقنا ويا أبانا الذي في السماوات. ورحمة الله تعالى نعمة الإيمان الوحيد وشركة موت وحدثكم مع جميعكم بسلام سلام ربكم.
يا ريت تتفضلوا كلكم هنا، يعني كلنا نبقى معاكم. اتفضلوا دكتور أشرف.